What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily with me, Mike Zakarian, as we continue to talk about the Boston Celtics and their NBA offseason as we're getting ready for the 25-26 NBA campaign. We got a couple of new updates in this slow time that we're going to get to, but before we get going, just a couple of reminders. Do me a favor, if it's your first time here, hit the subscribe, and also get involved in the chat. It helps make the show a little bit better. As you'll see, the last thing we're going to tackle on our list of stuff today is some of your comments from the previous video. So get involved. Speaking of getting involved, is Charles Bassey getting involved? Remember the Summer League standout, the big man? He was clearly the best front court guy we had in Las Vegas in those first three games, was basically putting up double-double numbers in very limited minutes. And I don't know if Boston had an idea this is what they were going to get from him when he arrived, because he was coming off the bench, right? It's not like he was starting for this Summer League team. So I think it was just kind of a flyer. And we knew going into it, or at least the Celtics organization knew, and then it was reported after he left the team, that he was only going to play the first three games of Summer League. And he showed out. He had a really good performance. Everybody was raving about him, both teammates and front office organization guys. So it seemed like it was, Bassey did his job, right? Because for a lot of these vets who come into Summer League, Summer League is designed for rookies and second-year guys, right? The rookies, this is their first experience in the league. The second-year guys, if they had a successful first-year campaign, we're like, hey, let's just see what we can evolve in the game. Let's try to see if we can add another tool to the arsenal. For those third, fourth year guys, usually this is like a last-ditch effort to just prove that you want another NBA contract or to kind of showcase yourself for the European crew. Now, Charles Bassey had played his rookie year with the 76ers behind Joel Embiid, and in the last 3 years has been buried behind Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs, where he's been playing sparingly, right? When somebody got hurt, he would get a little bit of run, or when the Spurs started tanking for that Wemby season, he'd get a little bit more run, but was not getting a ton of opportunity. Bassey again goes to Summer League, and by all accounts, it seemed like he was showcasing himself to go get a European deal. That were the rumors. I know Dalzell, I did a really good job reporting on this recently on her podcast, and said that and she was in Las Vegas reporting on it at the time, that there was I believe a Belgrade team that was looking to sign Bassey, and that was kind of the thought around the league. Well, after some conversations with Bassey and his team, it actually sounds like he's pretty dead set on staying in the NBA, that if there's an opportunity for him in the association, that is where he wants to play ball. Well, the Boston Celtics still have one roster spot open, right? And it does get a little bit tricky, but he even did, or his team indicated that he would like to play with Boston, likes the winning culture of the Celtics. Clearly, there is a need at front court. And again, I want to say too, with Summer League, when a vet like Bassey, or a vet in terms of Summer League, goes out there and balls out, it's not the most he's supposed to ball out, right? He's been in the league for a couple of years. This isn't his first dance there, so he is supposed to dominate. So for him to put up those numbers doesn't necessarily mean that will translate to starter minutes, right? Or to regular season basketball. But again, you look at the front court rotation of the Celtics and Luka Garza, not Josh Minot, he's more of a wing, but Luka Garza, Xavier Tillman, and Keita, there is an opportunity there. Where it gets tricky, though, and again, this is kind of like any conversation we have with adding another guy to the team. They do have one roster spot open, but they clearly, as Brad Stevens has indicated, do not want to be into the second apron. That is specifically why they traded Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. So why would you then kind of break this team down part for part to then just stay over the second apron? Now, that doesn't mean they can't get Bassey. I think if he was going to sign, it's not like he's going to cost a lot of money. That would still be a vet minimum. However, even the vet minimum, I do believe, would take them over the apron. So then you have to start thinking about, are there other moves that are going to be made? And that is why every time the Anthony Simons trade discussions happen or the Sam Hauser trade discussions happen, that's why they come up. It's not because Anthony Simons can't evolve as a playmaking guard, right? It's not that he doesn't fit with the Boston culture. He obviously has a smooth, silky three-point shot. He can do a little bit of playmaking, right? Averaging just about 5 assists a game for the Portland Trailblazers. He makes a ton of sense. But when you start thinking about, you could keep him for this 1 year, then you have to decide, are you going to re-sign him? Are you going to pay him long-term to stay with the team? And if that's the case, then like where else are you cutting corners? And that also means if you're not going to sign him, right? That means you just stayed in the like you just kept on that $30 million for what? For like to compete this year, maybe that's fine. And if you really do, if the front office and the ownership team really does believe that they are going to compete this year, then yeah, go into the tax. Absolutely. I'm not for teams. I don't want to be like the Fenway Sports Group who owns the Boston Red Sox, who they trade Rafael Devers and then say like, oh yeah, but it's for money. It's so that we can spend money at the trade deadline. And then they don't do anything, right? If this ownership team believes that there is a path forward this season, then absolutely. Or maybe they're seeing 2020, right? Maybe they've already had conversations with Simons and his team, and they know what the deal is going to look like when they go to the table after this season. If that's the case, then yeah, by all means. Like, of course, we don't have all the information, but I think that is why all of these deals continue to be discussed, because clearly, financially speaking, with the roster that they have right now, I don't know how competitive it's going to be long term. Long term for this season, and like, why would you put yourself in that situation if you didn't need to? So we'll see. But I do think there's a path forward for Charles Bassey getting to Boston. I really did like his game. I mean, he was springy. He very rare outside of Cooper Flagg, Victor Wembanyama, Dylan Harper. Like, you see these guys and you're like, oh my God, VJ Edgecombe, another one. But for the second or third year guys, sometimes it's not the easiest thing to pop off the floor, and that is what it was. Like when Bassey checked in, because I'll be honest, I I watch every single team, watch every single game. I'm a basketball junkie. I did not know who Charles Bassey was when he checked in. Like, I did not recognize him. I had to do some Googling. I was like, who's this guy? And I knew the name, but did not put the face with the name. So I'm not saying Charles Bassey household name, but he really did pop in Summer League. So something to keep an eye on. Clearly, there's still moves to be made with that one roster spot open. There's some other names we're going to throw out there. Actually, let's just pivot right to it. We get to talk about Vucime, Nikola Vucevic, the Chicago big man. Well, rumors now, I mean, like the wheels are turning. It sounds like a buyout is happening, that Vucevic is going to no longer be with the Chicago Bulls. I think if I had to bet on it, by the start of the season, Vuce will probably be on a different team, or not on a team, but he's not going to be on the Bulls. And so again, if this Celtics organization, we just did this whole spiel on if they think they can compete right now, and you can get Vuce at a very team-friendly deal. If you're talking about a 2-year, $16 million deal, something like that, $8 million a year, and then whatever he gives you this year, cool, whatever. But I'm more excited about the potential of him being ready to go for next season when Jason Tatum is back. Again, let's just assume, we'll talk about the Tatum stuff a little bit more at the end of the show, but let's assume he's not there, right? Let's assume that the Celtics' next championship contending team is 26-27. You get Vuce on a 2-year, super team-friendly deal. All of a sudden, you've got a starting center. And I'm not saying Vuce is an all-NBA. He's not even in the all-star conversation anymore for me. But you look at the front court we already went over that we currently have. And then in previous videos, we've gone over potential free agents. And the center free agent market is dead next year. There's only a couple of names on there that would be considered a starting center, and because of that makes the market juicier for the player, right? If there's only a couple of big man options, that like the bargaining, not the bargaining, the negotiations get fired. It's an arms race. That's the phrase I was looking for, because it's really just Isaiah Hartenstein who will hit the market. And then Mitchell Robinson, who most certainly will not be on the New York Knicks in 2 seasons because of financial stuff, right? Where they're paying Karl Anthony Towns big money, Brunson big money, OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges all big money. Like you don't have any. Once they did that extension with Mikal Bridges, the Knicks no longer have any roster flexibility. So somebody like Mitchell Robinson, I mean, it's kind of like similar with the Celtics, how they had to cut corners with some of these guys. So again, if those are the only 2 options, and you can get Vuce on a very, very cheap deal right now, I think that is a move. And the other reason I'm throwing that out there is because apparently our rivals are looking at it. They've already gotten one buyout in DeAndre Ayton, but it sounds like the Lakers are circling the wagon around Vuce if he gets moved off of that team. And that would just be unfair. That would be unfair for the Lakers, who basically had a terrible offseason. I mean, granted, they had the Luka trade, which was a home run, but once we got to like the actual offseason, they lost Dorian Finney-Smith. The vibes were real funky. LeBron's doing weird stuff, right? And then all of a sudden, DeAndre Ayton falls into their lap. Marcus Smart falls into their lap. And I'm not saying either of those guys are superstars, but they got them at cheap deals, right? And now you're telling me Vooch might be available, and they need cheap deals because I don't know if you saw this, but our guy Luka Doncic just signed a 3-year max. And I'm just gonna. I know this is a Celtics show, so don't worry, we're not going to talk about it too much, but just to point this out here, the Lakers signed a 3-year with Lakers and Luka signed a 3-year, $165 million contract. And what's crazy about what's that, like $55 million a year? Is that right? 55, 110? No, yeah. Oh, just about. Yeah, I nailed it. So it's $55 million a year. So now he's officially making more than Jaylen Brown. So everybody can relax about that. But then what sets them up is in 2028 he'll have another extension where the max would be 5 years, $417 million, which is just bonkers stuff. But there was the reason I brought this up because I thought it was funny. Sam Quinn, who I believe is of CBS, had a very funny tweet just to make fun of the Dallas Mavericks a little bit more, no matter how you feel about that trade and Luka. Next season, for the next 3 seasons, Anthony Davis will cost around $25 million more than Luka Doncic over the next 3 seasons. All right? Isn't that, all right. Go for it, Dallas. Go for it, Dallas. Yeah, you love to see it. But again, these like when Jaylen Brown signed that extension, everybody got so freaked out and was just like, "This is so much money," and it is a lot of money. But this is where we are, man. Every time a superstar or an all-star gets the chance for an extension, like you see Jalen Williams is making $50+ million a year, Chet Holmgren making $50+ million a year. Like this is just where we're at, and it's shocking when it first happens, and then when you see these other extensions keep cooking, then you're like, it's actually the norm, and it's not that bad. Same thing happened like. There was a time, this is like when still LeBron and Melo, everybody's in the league. Mike Conley was like the highest paid player in the league, and it was just because he was the first one to get that extension. So it's just, as time goes by, it won't feel as bad. Still crazy money, though. Another story, again, it's been a slow Celtics week, but it is Celtics adjacent, Celtics related. So Steve Pagliuca, who was one of the guys, a part of the Grusbeck team, the ownership group, I believe is called, when they owned the Boston Celtics, he was the guy that was bidding with Bill Chisholm. They were trying to own the Boston Celtics. Like, who was going to be the next owner? Was it going to be Pagliuca, who already had, like, a good feel for the Celtics organization, was a part of it. And then there was all this reporting about, like, the fallout between Pagliuca and Wyc Grousbeck, and then it ended up going to Bill Chisholm, and whatever. Pagliuca put some, like, letter on Twitter, and everybody's like, oh, wow, okay. But anyways, the Connecticut Sun, who play at Mohegan Sun right now, they were one of the best teams in the WNBA last season. Then they did a fire sale, just traded everybody off. They were like the second they did not have a shot at winning the chip, traded everybody off, full-on fire sale. And then it became clear the team was going to relocate out of Connecticut, which is interesting only because WNBA valuations are through the roof right now. And again, save your comments to be like, WNBA's a bunch of losers. Don't do that. Don't do that in the comments. But they with the valuations skyrocketing, they're expanding into like Detroit, Cleveland, and I think Portland was the third city that they just announced. Toronto's coming next season. Golden State they just brought out, the Valkyries, right? I was kind of surprised that they were going to sell the team, but maybe that's because they saw the spike. They want to get out of it. I also think like having a team in Connecticut, not the most desirable place for a professional organization, especially when a city like Boston doesn't have a team yet, just a couple hours up the road. Sorry, Connecticut. But anyways, it sounds like the Connecticut Sun have been purchased by Steve Pagliuca, who is going to relocate them to Boston, which is very exciting. Very exciting. Professional sports, baby, in the city of Boston. We love to see it. I live in New York. I'm a Liberty fan. I'm originally from Massachusetts, so everybody relax. But I follow the Liberty, and now I feel like I gotta abandon my Liberty fandom for Boston because I'm not gonna root for a New York team over Boston. I'm not like I might live in New York, but I'm not awful, But anyway, something to keep in mind, keep an eye on. Let's get into your comments. Before we do that, just a reminder. Hit that subby sub. We get a couple of comments that we're going to get into. So let's see. The first one. One of the things we talked about was Paulo Banchero. We were talking about the top 10 top 10 Eastern Conference players heading into next season. And I believe Jaylen Brown was like 8 or 9, I think it was where we had him, or where they had him. I didn't do the rankings. But Paolo was somebody that was 4. And then this guy, Mikey Spags, shout out Mikey Spags in the chat, says, look at Paolo's numbers. They are absolutely unbelievable. I have him as a top 5 player this season. So he's got it. And then he gave us his top 5. Jokic, SGA, Luka, Giannis, and then Paolo. And it's hard to argue with that only because I do think like Paolo. The 5 spot is wide open, right? Last season, it was like Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, Jason Tatum, like who was the 5th best player in the MVP conversation, right? So I think it's fair to put Paolo in there. We can look at Paolo's numbers. I will say the one thing I'm excited to see about Banchero this season with adding somebody like Desmond Bane and Tyus Jones, where maybe he doesn't have to do all of the ball handling, does he become a little bit more efficient? Because that's been the one hiccup in his game is because he's required to do so much. He's not able to have efficient numbers. But you saw him in the playoffs, right? I mean, him and Franz basically averaged 60 points together as a unit in that first round against the Celtics, but they just had nobody else. So last season he only played 46 games, right? Because he had that the torn oblique or whatever. He averaged 26 points. 7.5 boards, 5 dimes, 45% from the field, 32% from the 3-point line, and 72% from the line. Paolo's awesome. I'm not gonna hate on the Paolo stuff. I do think all NBA is right in range, but I also think Jaylen Brown is going to put up similar numbers this year. I really do, and I know there's a lot of mixed takes on the Jaylen Brown stuff. I thought there's really good comments though. Let's see. We got a couple more things here. One trainer, the 187, says, why would the Celtics tank when the Lakers is on their heels chasing banners? WTF? I think what I would argue is that by tanking or taking the gap year or not rushing Tatum back and all that stuff, you're actually setting yourself up for a better title chance in 26-27. So I think by doing that, you're actually, I think the percentages are higher for you to win, or I guess by doing that, the percentages of winning a title in 26-27 go up, I think. And versus like trying to compete this year, we're like, yeah, sure, you have a puncher's chance, but like realistically speaking, without Tatum, and again, if Tatum comes back, that changes everything, but without Tatum, I mean, like, who are you beating? And again, you still don't have a center. You still don't have a center, and that you need one. You need one, especially like you get into the Western like if you were to make it to the final, forget that. Even in the Eastern Conference, like you go up against the Cavs, and I'm not typically scared of Mobley and Allen, but when we don't have any other centers, Mobley and Allen all of a sudden look like the Twin Towers. Insert joke. Then you've got the Knicks have Karl-Anthony Towns. The Sixers, if they're healthy, have Embiid. Like, you just don't have anybody to cover these guys. Who's covering Giannis on this team now? Tatum and Al Horford were like Giannis guys. We don't have either of them. Again, Al Horford still hasn't signed yet. So anyways, that's why. That's why I would say that. All right, one more comment. We got Filipino Children playing 2801 says, why would you want JT back this year after the Isaiah Thomas scandal? Put it on the back burner. Let him come back next year. Yeah, I don't want to rush it. When we were talking about the Tatum stuff, I was just getting excited at the potential that he's healing faster than anticipated, and you just start drawing up scenarios of like, oh man, maybe they're going to be able to compete this year. No, they shouldn't rush him back. I think the Isaiah Thomas thing is a little bit different. I think the injuries are different, right? Thomas, that was kind of like a structural thing with his hip, and he just was never the same after that because he played through the injury. Different bodies, man, different ages. Like I think comparing the two is probably not right, but that Isaiah Thomas run was so fun, wasn't it? Like that was just like because our expectations were so low. We were not supposed to be doing that. Isaiah Thomas was not supposed to be doing that, right? He was like a third guard with the Phoenix Suns. Remember, he was buried with like Goran Dragic, Eric Bledsoe, and Isaiah Thomas. He comes over and just absolutely cooks. It was so fun. But you're right. We shouldn't rush him back. But that's going to do it for us today. I appreciate everybody hanging out. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. We'll be back tomorrow. Let's go Celtics, man. Let's get after it and hit that subscribe, baby.